Welcome to another episode of the Trial Attorneys. Happy New Year. We're back for a new year here. And of course, as always, there are always interesting legal issues for us to look at and discuss. How you doing, Ricky?
I'm good.
Great.
Dang, I'm a year older. God darn it.
Hey, man. Well, that's better than the alternative.
Got a point there.
Yeah. So it's a good thing. All right. So we're gonna start off the new year with a bang here, I guess, and we're gonna jump into a very interesting legal topic. Of course, we're attorneys, and as part of our job is to be objective and be as, I guess you could say, analytical as possible. So
Non-emotional.
not emotional. So we're not going to interject any political views into this discussion. We're going to talk about a very interesting legal issue, and that's Trump's sentencing.
Was that a sentence?
Well, it's more like a comma. It's more like a comma instead.
Mm-hmm.
So as many of us in this country know, Trump has just been reelected to be the president again. So that makes him the 44th and the 46th president of the United States. It's only happened one other time before, many years. I believe it was maybe Harrison.
Oh, that was before my time.
That is. So I think it was Benjamin Harrison. I think he was the only other president to skip, in essence, like that, and not do consecutive terms. I could be wrong about that, but there's one president prior, I believe, that it happened before. So that in itself is an interesting historical fact. But the other, I guess, infamous or dubious historical fact is we're going to now have a president for the first time ever with felony convictions. When this issue came up, I was very interested in the legality of it, because I don't know if you know, Ricky, but I mean, I've represented former and present elected officials here in Illinois for various issues over the years. And one of the issues that comes up in Illinois, if you are a convicted felon, you cannot hold public office in Illinois. So if you've been convicted of a felony 30 years ago and then you win office, that conviction from 30 years ago stops you from holding public office. And I've seen several public officials removed from office when a rival finds some drug conviction from 35 years ago or something, and they are removed legally to taken to court, and they're booted out of office because they have prior felony conviction.
And even when that was something that was done when they were like 18 years old.
Yep.
And, they're older and wiser now.
Yep. And they're still booted out of office. So I was interested. I don't know if you knew this, Ricky, but I keep a copy of the Constitution.
I have a small one, too.
Yeah.
I have a real small one.
Yeah, I keep this one in my briefcase, and I carry it every day. You can tell it's beat up. So I've had it, over 20 years. And so
I wish a lot of politicians would use it as much as you did.
Yeah, that would be useful. That would be useful. So often, it sounds, I guess, kind of nerdy here, but sometimes I just kind of open it up and read it. And it has this, older sort of parchment paper too. That's why I like it. It feels nice. It's like it was written back then when they first, the Constitution first came into play. Because even though, we can have 30 shows about all the injustice in this country, but this is what this country's supposed to be about. The Constitution, this is what separates us from a lot of other places. This is what's supposed to make it one of the best countries in the world. So I firmly believe that, and so I often look at this. But I was looking at this to really check, can you be a felon and still be the president of the United States? And apparently you can. You can. So Article 2 is where they talk about the powers of the President of the United States of America, and the only requirements to be president are no person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to the office of president. Neither shall any person be eligible to the office who shall not have attained the age of 35 years and have been 14 years a resident within the United States. That's the only requirements.
Okay. Where was the one about crimes, high crimes and misdemeanors?
So, Section 4 of Article 2 says the President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for the conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. So
I assume all that occurred prior to him being elected president, so not during.
This speaks about, Section 4 speaks about during your presidency.
Yes.
Exactly. So this is a unfortunate loophole in that, because he's now been convicted of something that he did before he was president and not something he did while he's in his presidency, he can still be president.
Well, I remember I was trying to, when I was applying for my law license, and they gave you like this inch thick application. Mm-hmm. And on one section, they ask you, not only have you ever been convicted, they ask you regarding speeding tickets.
Wow.
That's just to get a license.
Yep.
But if you be the president of the United States, you could be a convicted felon.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unusual. So former president and President-elect Donald Trump was convicted of 34 felony counts related to hush money payments made during his 2016 presidential campaign. The case involved allegations of financial misconduct and falsified business records used to cover up payments meant to silence accusations of extramarital affairs. So we're not going to get into the trial. That can be a whole nother show, the trial itself, because from my viewing of the trial itself, of course, I'm not licensed in New York, so I'm not 100% familiar with all laws in New York. It's going to be different from Illinois. But apparently the statute itself was one that hasn't been often used previously. And maybe even
But it's still a law, though.
It's still a law. And maybe even the way the statute was applied in this particular case was creative.
I was just about to say, one of the things we always talk about when we compare, we were former prosecutors and now we're defense attorneys, is that prosecutors are never creative.
Right.
And this one was creative.
Alan Bragg,
he was creative. And defense attorneys tend to be more creative. And I gotta pat him on the back. Mm-hmm. He broke the mold of being predictable, having boilerplate arguments.
Right.
So he was creative.
Yeah. And so that's another issue we can discuss another show, because I always find it interesting, just the legality, the actual looking at statutes and actually saying this is how it was applied. And apparently, even though what was done was creative, the jury, decided that after hearing all the evidence that he was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt on all 34 counts.
And remember, it's a jury picked by both sides.
Yep, right.
Some people say, no, the jury's unfair, but you hire attorneys.
Right.
The prosecution and the defense has the opportunity to examine potential jurors, and you can excuse jurors if you don't feel that they could be fair to you.
Exactly.
And then both sides decide on what the final makeup of the jury is. Mm-hmm. And the reason why our system is better than, it's not perfect. When people say make America great, I don't think it's not that it's great. That's a patriotic thing. We had the best.
Right.
We had the best because we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect.
No.
Nobody's great. It's the best on the planet.
Right.
And then once that jury makes that decision, we should honor it. We shouldn't attack it, because we don't like the outcome.
Right.
But that's what makes ours the best in the system on the planet.
Absolutely. So the difference here. So we're going to talk about a lot of the differences, and at the end of this discussion, we may sound upset about just the procedural part of a lot of this, because what I'm going to say right now is I just hope moving forward that all of our clients receive the same grace. that
Say that again.
all of our clients.
You hope.
Yes.
Okay.
I hope.
Okay.
Hope floats eternal. Yes. I hope. Because the first thing we're going to talk about is, so he's convicted of 34 felonies. Now in Illinois, Ricky, what happens? We do a jury trial. We don't lose a lot, but there have been times we lost, of course. What happens in a felony in Illinois after a jury says guilty on a felony case?
I mean, you lose certain rights.
Right.
If you're convicted of a felony, you may lose even constitutional rights,
Right.
to right to bear arms that everybody enjoys, a right to certain jobs, to move in certain public housing.
Yeah.
It's just so much that you lose, and a mistake that you make at 18 could devastate you for the rest of your life.
Yes.
And it may push you in a direction that is, I mean, because we want people to improve. We all I made mistakes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't raise to the level where it caused me to prevent me from going to school or going to law school. You know, I was lucky.
Right.
But it could that one mistake could devastate you for the rest of your life and
Yeah.
determine whether you're going to continue in crime or not.
Yeah.
Because if you can't get a job, what are you going to do?
Yeah. It's true, and you're absolutely right. You know, I was just telling some friends the other day about just different things that's happened or I've done over my childhood, and if I wasn't fortunate, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be sitting someplace else, and that's you know, a lot of times that's just the difference in between one person and another. But in particular, what I was talking about is, you know, after we lose a jury trial, the prosecutor is going to ask to take our client into jail.
Absolutely. Swipe them off the floor.
Yep, and that's what we call it. You take them right off the floor. So, and it's a horrible thing to see, because a person, especially if they're out of custody and they're standing there and then they hear guilty, and then the deputy just comes and grabs them.
And their families watching this.
Yep, and they just get taken into the back. So, and that happens 99% of the time after we lose a felony.
Every day, all day.
Yeah. But didn't happen here to Trump.
Well, I guess the judge, one thing he did do, he said, basically, he's not going to take him into custody because of the office of the presidency, not because of him as an individual. Whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
He's protected by being in the office, not necessarily because of who he is as an individual.
Right. You know, I don't, of course, that part of it is difficult for me to agree with for just various reasons. But even in particular, you know, I've represented a former elected official who was sentenced to jail time. And one of the things that the judge made a point of in saying to that client, the judge said, "You should have known better." Which, you know, it was you know, tons of support at sentencing.
Shouldn't we all know better?
Absolutely. You know, a stellar, you know, background, community, done all these things. Judge still said jail. And in essence, I'm going to punish you because I hold you to a higher standard, in essence. But that's not what's happening here.
Well, I mean, you have police officers who are accused of crimes.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I've never heard, if they get convicted, you should have known better.
Nope. No. Instead, they take all these the things they've done in the past, and they culminate that, say, well, this is the aberration from who they are, and this is, you know, I'm going to give you a sentence according to that. But that's not what happened in my case.
I think when I was watching the Jussie Smollett case, I mean, I think he had minimal background, and then the defense attorneys presented mitigation as sentencing, and unfortunately, the judge used that mitigation against him. Either it's mitigation or it's not.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. It's unusual. So that's the first unusual part of this case, that this is something, just from looking at it from a defense attorney, these are things that I would hope that all judges would look at and say, wow, well, if this is happening, then we should do that. We should look at this differently for everyone.
You see the look on my face.
Right. It's not going to happen.
I mean, it's unfortunately, politics has an influence on judges. Right. Judges are supposed to be neutral and detached, right, where they follow the law. And, I think you should look at a person who's almost 80 years old versus who should know better versus an 18-year-old who doesn't have the most positive environment. But unfortunately, sometimes politics supersedes, the rule of law.
Yes.
Which I think is, and especially if it's on a large scale, if everyone's watching it, then people say, the law's not fair.
Right.
Or some people say it only benefits people versed upon privilege, wealth, and then if it was the average person on the street, they'll be doing 20 years.
Right. And that is the issue. So the next strange occurrence that happened, so the judge says, okay, we're going to do sentencing on January 10th, but we're going to do sentencing, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not giving you jail. What?
I don't want to hear any aggravation, any negative things about your past. Normally, like you said, in sentencing, there's a sentencing stage where you hear factors in mitigation and aggravation. What that means is the state will say all the negative things about you.
Right.
And the defense will present all the positive things about you that you've done.
Right.
And based upon listening to both, the judge would decide what the appropriate sentence will be based upon the things, the pluses and the negatives.
Right.
He was like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. No. And hopefully, I don't know if these, the pendulum usually swings in regards to people's view on criminal justice, and I think it's swinging back to a more where people think that heavy penalties and being tough on crime is going to help anything. I don't disagree with that, but I think it's swinging back that way. I'm saying that to say that during aggravation, a lot of times prosecutors will call your client everything but the son of God.
Don't even know him.
Don't know him.
First time they met him is in court.
Yeah. They're scourges, dangerous to society. Yeah, whoa. I get insulted from my clients. Like, you don't know this person. And I told a judge the other day, this person is being judged here for the worst moment of their life. And now all of a sudden the other side is saying this person is a scourge of the you don't know this person. But they throw those words out, boy. They throw them out quick, and that always bothers me. But so it's coming to the point where that never happens, where we have a sentencing, where then a judge, before we even know it's the judge, goes, "Don't worry, Ricky. Don't worry. Your guy's gonna get probation."
And he doesn't even have a probation officer.
No.
You don't even have to call and check in.
No, right. So that's
So what's the purpose of it?
That's the next strange point. So first, he doesn't get put into custody.
Not for one. They don't hold him there for an hour.
No. Never.
So he can know what you missed.
No. Yeah, never in custody. Then the judge tells him, we're going to do sentencing, but don't worry, you're not going to jail or anything. And then we get to the actual sentencing. So Judge Juan Merchan issued an unconditional discharge.
That means no conditions.
No conditions. Meaning Trump avoided prison time, fines, or probation.
Community service?
Nothing. He got nothing.
Meaningless.
No, he is a convicted felon, okay, which of course, as we fight for our clients very often, is a horrible fate for average people, because it changes the course of your life, it ruins your life. But for him to have nothing, that on a felony, never happens here. You ever had we have conditional discharge in Illinois. We don't have unconditional discharge. But can you think of a time we had someone with a felony who the prosecutor just said,
be gone and sin no more.
yes, yeah, yeah. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It's the sentence. You know, as a defense attorney, his attorney should be, you know, doing the running man and, you know, doing dancing and sorts, because that's a great outcome for your client.
Well, I understand the whole concept because he's going to be the president of the United States.
Right.
But it just seemed to me the judge should at least read him the riot act.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that the only thing that's saving you is the office of the presidency. And he should have told him that you've shown absolutely no remorse, that you've blamed everybody else but yourself for your conduct.
Yeah.
That you can keep lying and saying, oh, this is rigged, but that's the jury that you picked.
Right.
And the truth is the truth, and you can keep lying to people about it, but you're a convicted felon. I mean, if you're not going to sentence this guy, at least tell him who he is.
Right.
And that, you know, that 50 years will pass, and the truth is the truth. That a jury of your choosing, listened to the evidence, and they decided, your peers,
Right.
and you may not like the outcome, but at least be man enough to show some remorse,
Yeah.
to be contrite. But no, he got on there, he blamed everybody else. I think, you know, I understand that because he is the president-elect and the office says him. But knowing that, the judge should have been clear and let him know. I mean, they spent a lot of money, went through all the process. The jurors took a lot of their time from family and work. That should mean something. Right. So he should at least told him about himself, at a minimum.
Right.
And I understand. I kind of understand. Okay, but for some people, being a convicted felon, they want to, that's the worst thing. But other people, I lose my freedom.
And in speaking of the contrition you were talking about, Trump has labeled the proceedings as a despicable charade, and he plans to appeal the conviction. That's what he has to say. You know, if and again, this is after all these years of representing all these clients, and quite honestly,
was that a state conviction or a federal conviction?
State.
Okay, and so he can appeal it.
Yeah.
I mean, he could appeal it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have federal judges who turn around and say,
Right. Yeah. Unless, all of his cases, he elevates everything to the Supreme Court, hoping his in essence, his buddies will help him out. I'm going to get to that in a second. But what I was saying is that all these years, it does build a chip on your shoulder, I think, as an attorney, because you get angry that your clients are constantly demeaned. And, people make mistakes. They're human beings. But over and over, the clients are demeaned in court by judges, prosecutors. Are demeaned as though these people, your clients, are just the scourges of the earth. And it bothers. Sometimes I just boil it and say, "What you don't know." And if your client stood in court indignant, if our client stood in court indignant and did not apologize,
oh my God,
and did not cower before the judge, they would
scoop him off the floor and extend their sentence.
Yeah, and just throw the key away. So it bothers me that whether he's president of the United States or not, he has no respect.
Well, what's telling is at the funeral of the great Jimmy Carter, we live in a time where people just can say nasty things. I mean, he was a Christian man. He was married to the same woman for over 60 years.
Yes.
Even after being president, he was building houses. Who does that?
Yeah. They also said that Jimmy Carter would fly economy, and he would go down the aisles and
he was
shake
a humble
everyone's
man.
hand-
He
shake
was a humble
everyone's
man.
hand.
He was
Yeah.
a humble man. And my thing is, and this is what I mean. I know I have my personal opinions about Trump, but I think when you're in the position of the most powerful person in the world, you must be dignified.
Yeah.
You know, this is name calling and all that. And I'll give an example. At Jimmy Carter's funeral, notwithstanding the fact that President-elect Trump said some of the most nastiest things about these people, what happened? President Obama sat next to him,
Right.
cordial. That's what a president should do. You know, shake his hand, talk to him.
Right.
And I think that's what upsets me about President-elect Trump is people are watching you. The world is watching you.
Yeah.
That you should be dignified, diplomatic. Don't if our allies owe money at NATO, part of diplomacy is to go behind closed doors and say, you know what, you're gonna have to ante up.
Right.
But publicly, you don't. That's not diplomacy to make your allies appear to be your enemies and your enemies be your allies. So I think I'm more that I think he doesn't understand what the role is of a president. I mean, you represent everybody,
Yeah.
not just the people who give you money or people who support you or people who believe you. And will he understand that during the next 4 years? I doubt it. No, he's 80 years old. He's not going to change.
No. So before Trump was even sentenced, his team appealed not the sentence because he hadn't gotten it yet, but just getting sentenced. He wanted to delay. So initially, honestly, what I thought was going to happen after he won the presidency again, I already knew his team had filed a motion to reconsider, which is normal. Honestly, I thought the judge, which is, of course, very difficult to do, I thought the judge was going to throw out the jury verdict and just find him not guilty and send him on his way. I thought that's what the judge
You
was
really thought that?
I really did.
That's believable.
Yeah, I really thought that just because, I remember what I wanted to say, that these times in dealing with Trump have really displayed people are supposed to be honorable, intelligent, strong people. It's really showing who has courage and who doesn't.
Exactly.
We're really finding out. You know, these things are going to be in
Absolutely.
the annals of history of what they did during all this time.
Like ABC,
Right.
you know, they're supposed to be the defenders of freedom of the press,
Right.
you know, First Amendment, and then they bowed down and paid the $15 million.
Right.
So that means, to me, they were cowards.
Right.
One, you had a good defense. Two, that means now you're going to be hesitant to say anything negative about it. So now, in fact, you're not going to be giving us all the news, only news you think that you won't be sued for.
Right. And you're talking about what Trump sued ABC for slander and libel from the debate, was it?
No, I think Stephanopoulos said
yes.
he was
Yes.
there was a civil suit and they used the word rapist.
Yes.
And he sued him, but the judge said rapist. I mean, one, freedom of the press, and two, there's a legitimate reason that you could. The judge said rape, and rather than fight and defend the freedom of the press and freedom of speech, they bow down.
Right. So Trump appeals just the fact of getting sentenced, and it makes it all the way to the Supreme Court. And surprisingly, the Supreme Court denies his request to delay sentence, but it was 5-4. It was really close. One vote.
Why do you think? I think I have an idea why he's appealing it.
Yeah. So Chief Justice John Roberts, who of course Republican, and Amy Coney Barrett, who were now Amy Coney Barrett was just recently she was appointed by Trump, and 3 liberal justices, they rejected Trump's appeal. So it can always go either way. But one interesting part about this is that there have been reports that Trump had a phone conversation with Justice Alito.
That drove me absolutely mad.
Before this decision
I
came out.
understand that. And the reason why it's inappropriate.
Yes.
Because even as attorneys, there's rules of ethics.
Right.
And one of the major rules that we can lose our license for is not that it's not just enough to be improper or do something improper. We must avoid the appearance. Merely that you could lose your license if it appears to be improper. Before a United States Supreme Court judge, who they said, oh, they're so smart, they need to be on the U.S. Supreme Court, to take that call, knowing that he has cases before you,
right,
and going to have cases in the future before you. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it's going to involve to take that call was absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely.
You're trying to tell me that, and they said, oh, he was just talking about referring somebody for a job. But that's what you do your little run around people for. They do that. You don't do that directly. No. And for him to take that call saying, I can't take that call. Yeah. If I walked into the judge's office and starts talking about the case, they're going to refer me to the disciplinary.
Yes. Yeah. It's frustrating because you've had clients that come in to the office and say, Ricky, why don't you just call the judge? And then we tell them we laugh. It doesn't work that way. But then this happens. So they think, what? Trump called the judge.
And the thing about it is, how many times have the judge, if you ever got in custody, the judge hands you an envelope and says, oh, your client sent me some jail mail. I didn't open it or read it.
Right. That happens. Yeah.
Because I can't have communications with you.
Yes, exactly. So the way, it's a whole nother can of worms.
And really quick, then the highest court in the land says, oh, we don't need any ethics rules for us.
Right. Yeah. There are a lot of issues. Of course, the Supreme Court is set up here in the Constitution, and they have no guardrails. No one watches them. They do what they want.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely. That is very. I love that quote. It's great. It really does reinforce that mantra. So,
but my here's real quick. Why do you think? Now he's 80 years old. I think he's a millionaire, but he claims to be a billionaire. He could do and go wherever he wants. Why do you think he's appealing that conviction? Because I'm gonna give you the reason why. Right. It's one thing because of his ego. That's it. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to be known as a convicted president. Mm-hmm. It's about his ego. That's it. He can do whatever he wants. He can fly anywhere he wants. Why do you care? The average person, if they have a felony conviction, they're trying to appeal it because it's going to prevent them from getting jobs and voting and all that type of stuff. Him, it's about his ego.
Yeah.
I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
I'd get in my car and drive my Ferrari with my felony convictions.
Yeah. At this point in his life and the money he has, a felony conviction is not going to affect him the same way it's going to affect our 18-year-old client from Roseland. But he is the first former president to be convicted of a felony. First one. Not even Watergate, that whole situation. Nixon at least knew enough to resign.
Well, that took courage to me.
Yeah. It also took other people in his party stepping up to him and telling him.
What's the name? I forgot it. Goldwater. But at least he had enough dignity to say, I'm not going to put this country through this.
Yeah.
That it's not about me. See, that's the thing is when you're the president of the United States, it's not about you. It's not about what money you could make for you. You don't use that office to help yourself or help your friends or help other people. It's about you're the president of the United States of America. And you have to do what's in the best interest of the country. And that's what Nixon did.
Yeah. Supporters, and just talk about political supporters of Trump, claim that the case is politically motivated. to tarnish his reputation ahead of his inauguration.
Isn't that like a conclusion? You hear them say that all the time, and then when you say to them, explain to me why.
Yeah.
Where did all this evidence come from? The jurors listen to that evidence.
Yeah.
If I was a prosecutor and I said, I'm going after all child molesters, and then some guy is charged with child, well, you said when you were running for office, you said you're going after all child molesters. This is politically motivated. Yeah, I go after criminals.
Right.
I'm a politician. I mean, what that statement is meaningless to me.
Mm-hmm. It is. And what I hope comes from all of this is people who for years have claimed to be supporter of law and order. We were all about law and order. And now many of those folk are now saying, oh, wait a second, the system is rigged. There are issues with the criminal justice system. People are arrested and charged with crimes they did not commit. I just hope that that's not just hypocrisy, and people actually sit back and think that maybe all of these minorities and folk who are socioeconomically not as privileged, who've been saying that the system has been rigged against them for years, maybe actually sit back and say, oh, all these people were right.
Well, I think they believe in law and order when the law and order is not against you.
Ah.
So if they're of a different race or economic status, law and order, how dare them riot? They're all criminals.
Yeah.
But if someone else riots, they're political prisoners.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, a lot of people are not critical thinkers.
Yeah.
They believe what they are told. They don't think for themselves. And usually in the long run, those same people are not going to win. They're not going to benefit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The people telling them this stuff are going to benefit. They don't even reflect and say, how's this going to improve my life or my interaction with other people?
Yeah. Well, I think we've talked enough about this issue, but we're gonna probably delve more into the case itself, the charges itself, and maybe some other, 'cause there's so many other legal issues when it comes to Trump, and that in regards to just legal analysis, they're interesting issues that come up with what happened in Georgia with the federal charges. It's so much, so many different areas of law that just haven't been really gotten into over these years. But what it really comes down to is, I truly believe, we the people, this is what this country, this is the dream, or this is what.
Who is we? I think that's what the issue is. Who is we?
Who is we?
Yeah.
That wraps up another episode of the Trial Attorneys. We're grateful you joined us. If you enjoy our discussion, please take a moment to follow us on Spotify, rate the podcast, share it with friends. We're on Instagram,
subscribe,
TikTok, subscribe to YouTube, and you'll see more discussions like this. Thank you.
Thank you.